Hi, I'm Jay, and today on Jay's World Kitchen, we're making Kurt's Easy Stovetop Potjie. As a South African, one of our favorite meals is PotjieKos. And PotjieKos is usually done in a cast iron pot like this, or one that you've probably seen like a witch's cauldron with 3 little eggs and a lid. And the difference is that normally this is done over an open fire. And the pot is usually suspended across the center of the fire like that. And basically it is kept going for a number of hours at a time until the meat and vegetables are just perfectly tender and tasty. Well, I don't have a fire pit, and so I thought, well, there's got to be a way to do it on a stove. So join me as we put this together and see how it turns out on the stovetop. This recipe comes from my mom's friend Kurt, so thank you, Kurt, for the recipe, and we're really looking forward to it. But let's have a look at what's in this. To make this dish, you're going to need about a pound of stewing beef, a couple of onions diced. I'm going to throw in some garlic too, although the recipe doesn't call for it, but you know how I feel about garlic. 2 cups or 500 mils of beef stock, a large can of diced tomatoes, a teaspoon of sugar, salt, pepper to taste, potatoes, carrots, or other hard vegetables. I'm going to be using rutabaga, and some soft vegetables like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. Now you can, if you want to, add some alcohol to this. The nice thing about potjie is that there's no real rules about what you can throw in there. So I'm not going to be throwing in any alcohol today, but I have seen people use red wine. But this particular recipe, Kurt suggested using old brown sherry. Now if you do at that point, and we'll talk about this at the time, you're going to add about 1/4 of a bottle of old brown sherry, but you're going to heat it up before you put it into the pot. Anyway, let's start putting this together. I'm excited. So here's the thing about PotjieKos. Firstly, it's basically a stew. Secondly, unlike a stew, we're not going to be doing a lot of mixing of the ingredients throughout the whole thing. We're only going to be doing that right at the beginning when we do our onions. And right now, I have in my pot, I have a couple of tablespoons of olive oil and some butter, just because we like butter. And I'm going to, now that the heat has come up a little bit, throw in my onions. And just give them a little bit of a stir. You don't want to cook them very well. This is going to cook for a long time. So you're just going to throw them in, get them coated for about 2 minutes before we add in our beef and our other ingredients. And our onions are only just starting to sort of warm up. We're going to give them a quick stir, and now I'm going to throw in our garlic. And remember, this is an addition for me because, well, I just like garlic a lot. We're also now going to throw in our beef. Now let's just quickly talk about the beef that I'm using. I'm using pieces of chuck. They're cut up into about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, which is about 2 centimeters squares. And this is about just over a pound that I'm going to throw in here with this. And I put it in sort of warts and all, as it were. It's got some of the fat on there as well. That's okay. You're going to want that. Mix it in with your garlic. And the idea here is that what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up making layers of flavor and layers of our ingredients in the pot, and then just leave it. We're not going to stir it. We're not going to do anything with it over a couple of periods of time. So right now I'm adding in my salt and pepper just on top like that, and the teaspoon of sugar. And we will stir that in because we do want to get those nice and evenly spread. You can add as many ingredients as you like, or as few as you like as well. Again, you want this over a medium to low heat. You don't want it to burn on the bottom. You want it to cook nice and evenly throughout. And now that our beef is just starting to brown very slightly, we are now going to throw in our 2 cups of beef stock and our can of diced tomato. And just distribute that a little bit like that. And now the hard part. Lid on and don't touch it for an hour. In an hour we're going to be adding all of our root vegetables, so all of our harder vegetables. So this is a good time to prep those. And now our potjie has been on for about an hour, and now we're going to add in our root vegetables. So just open it up. Remember, no stirring. And we're going to throw in our potatoes as evenly as we can. Our rutabagas or sweets or turnips or whatever we're putting in, and carrots. And close that back up. Remember, no stirring, and leave that for half an hour, and then we're going to put in our soft vegetables. And now our root vegetables have been in our potjie for about half an hour. We're going to open it up and throw in our softer vegetables. So in this case I'm using cauliflower, broccoli, and a little bit of cabbage. But oh, that smell is so good. The whole house is just permeated with that amazing smell. We're going to start off with our broccoli and cauliflower just on top like that. It is important at each stage that you're adding to keep an eye on moisture. And if you find that it's getting a little bit dry and it's starting to get a little too thick, you will want to add some more stock or wine or sherry, as we've discussed. Sherry is always a good thing. I like that sort of sweetened flavor to it, but I didn't add any this time. I just added stock. So just remember, keep an eye on your liquids. You can leave that for as long or as short a time as you like. I'm going to leave it for a couple of hours, but just on a low simmer, just so that it keeps cooking and all of that sort of comes together. But you can cook it with, you could probably serve it within half an hour of this step. If you want to, you can leave it for as long as you need. So let's do that, and we'll come back and taste this. So at the end I left my potjie on for probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I did add in some extra liquid in there to make it a little bit saucier towards the end. I didn't add any alcohol, but you can. Red wine always goes very well in there, as does heated up old brown sherry if you can find it. But really it is just, it's going to give you a stew, a very tasty, very wholesome stew. And I am, like, the smell is just amazing. So I'm actually really looking forward to trying some of this. I'm going to see if I can get a nice chunk of meat. Oh, that is so tender. All the vegetables just sort of melt in your mouth. The meat just melts in your mouth. That is just such an amazing flavor. You have to try this. If you do, please let me know how it turned out. I really do enjoy hearing what your experience was with my recipes. So if you enjoyed this, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And remember, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you'd like to support this channel, please head on over to my Patreon, where you can support this channel for as little as $5 a month. Really do appreciate your support. And until next week.